It's fine, right?
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I just had a skim through it, but we can. Don't worry, there won't be any legal issues as such.
Sure. Perfect. All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Hirsch, for inviting me. I think for everybody who's watching this live debate, it's important to set the context. Dr. Hirsch called me out for a debate. I think he was addressing one of my videos which I made on ANFs, anti-nutrition factors in food, and he had some issues on the video. So he made a subsequent video. And then, so basically, I have 2 points of contention. I think for the scope of this debate, rather than going wider, if we can focus on going deeper. So 2 points, which is what I'm going to contend on. One is that the video that Dr. Hirsch made on me, I think it was kind of misrepresented. It was not really what I intended to say. And the second point is the study, Ishizuki. I think that's where we have major points of contention. So I think these are the 2 points where I would like to have like a disagreement with you. And if it's acceptable by you, we can proceed.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, perfect.
So before we begin, sorry to interrupt. What I'll do is I'll give the brief in detail to the audience as to why we started this debate. So first, I believe I made a reel which spoke about the topic anti-nutrients and soy in an overview. I made 2 reels, in fact, and it reached a large audience. So in response to this, I believe what was an indirect response on Mr. JC's profile was another reel that spoke about how some influencers disregard foods just on the basis of anti-nutrients. So I reached out to Mr. JC, Jitendra Chouksey, and I asked him that this is something that I completely disagree with, and either the post has to be removed or we can speak on a live debate. And we cleared that out over comments, DMs, and stories. And now here we are debating as to why anti-nutrients may be a problem as per me, or why they may not be a problem and they are completely edible as per Mr. Jitendra Chouksey.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'll let you go forth with your points now.
Sure. Sounds good. So let me know if you guys can see my screen. If you can see my screen, I'm sure you guys won't be able to hear it because and there were some problems. So this was a video that I made, and I'm going to play the whole version of this video on my phone, so you guys can exactly hear what I had to say on this topic. न्यूट्रिएंट्स को एक बेस बना आजकल लोगों ने आजकल कई लोग एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट्स को एक बेस बनाते हैं और बोलते हैं कि ये खाना मत खाओ क्योंकि इसमें ये एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट्स है, वो खाना मत खाओ क्योंकि इट विल हर्ट योर मिनरल एब्जॉर्प्शन. द प्रॉब्लम विद दिस इज कि जो ये एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट्स के हमारी बॉडी में माइक्रो इंटरेक्शंस हैं वो अभी तक पूरी तरह से स्टडी किए नहीं गए हैं. अर्ली जो रिसर्चेस थी उसमें इन विट्रो एक्सपेरिमेंट्स थे, पेट्री डिश जो एक्सपेरिमेंट्स होता है, या आपके आउट ऑफ ह्यूमन बॉडी एक्सपेरिमेंट्स, माइस एक्सपेरिमेंट्स थे जहाँ की कंसंट्रेशन काफी ज्यादा ली जाती थी एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट्स की, और वहां पे कुछ नेगेटिव इफेक्ट्स थे. बट और रिसर्चेस अब आ चुके हैं. इनफैक्ट 2021 का एक मेटा रिव्यू था जिसमें उन्होंने पिछले 30 साल के जितने मेटा एनालिसिस थे उन सबको रिव्यू करके ये पाया कि एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट्स डोंट जस्ट हैव नेगेटिव इफेक्ट्स इन योर बॉडी. इनफैक्ट एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट्स आल्सो एक्सर्ट अ लॉट ऑफ बेनिफिशियल इफेक्ट्स इन योर बॉडी. तो आप तो एलिमेंट्स को सोक कर रहे थे क्योंकि उसमें से आप चाहते थे कि उसमें फाइटिक एसिड जो उसकी कंसंट्रेशन कम हो जाए, बट अब तो रिसर्च सजेस्ट कर रही है कि फाइटिक एसिड इज एक्चुअली गुड फॉर यू. The point I'm trying to make is that the science on anti-nutrients, the science on this exact interaction in human body is still a body of debate. इस पे हमको बहुत ज़्यादा पता नहीं है. आजकल कई लोग. So I think for the whole audience and even for you once again, Dr. Hirsch, I just summarized what I said in this video. I said, I think it's unfair that we mention certain anti-nutrients and point out few studies when we have new researchers on anti-nutrients, which are suggesting that they might also exert some beneficial effects. Now, I wasn't presenting my personal opinion when I said they might exert certain beneficial effects. I said the researchers have come out. In fact, there's a new meta-analysis which has come out, which is a meta-review of almost 30 which is a meta-review of almost meta-reviews of the last 30 years. And it has pointed out. So in the video, I clearly mentioned that the meta clearly points out that there could be benefits and there could be some harmful effects. And I ended the video by saying that we really don't know about these micro interactions that happen in the body. Right. So I think it was a fairly balanced video. Now I want to play the video that you did on as a counter to this video. So this was the video. Now I want to play this video so that everybody can hear this, because I don't think you guys can hear the video. कई लोग एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट को एक बेस बनाते हैं और बोलते हैं कि ये खाना मत खाओ क्योंकि इसमें ये एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट है। द प्रॉब्लम विद दिस इज कि जो ये एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट्स के हमारी बॉडी में या आपके आउट ऑफ ह्यूमन बॉडी एक्सपेरिमेंट्स, माइस एक्सपेरिमेंट्स, दिस आर इन फैक्ट एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट्स आल्सो एक्सर्ट अ लॉट ऑफ बेनिफिशियल इफेक्ट्स इन योर बॉडी। जितेंद्र चोकसी के हिसाब से एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट्स कंज्यूम करने। सो द फर्स्ट प्रॉब्लम वाज दैट यू एडिटेड अ होल लॉट ऑफ कंटेंट from my original video. So it made it look like that I was presenting my personal opinions. But if you go back and check my video, I wasn't presenting my personal opinions. I clearly highlighted the study and that the study presented both beneficial and negative side effects, right? But you only said that I pointed out positive side effects, which I think is wrong. कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। इन फैक्ट इन्होंने तो ये बोल दिया कि एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट्स कंज्यूम करने के बेनिफिट्स हैं। पहली बात आप मेरे पे अगेन दिस इज misappropriation. जो डायरेक्टली भी बना सकते थे क्योंकि आपकी ऑडियंस तो वैसे ही समझ गई। कोई बात, चलिए देखते हैं मिस्टर जेसी को कितनी साइंस आती है। अगर आप जितेंद्र चोकसी के खुद के दिखाए हुए रिसर्चेस को रिव्यू करोगे तो वहां एंटी न्यूट्रिएंट्स की साइड इफेक्ट्स की बात की। Again, this is misappropriation because the researchers which I had highlighted in the video, it had a meta-analysis which had meta-analysis from the last 30 years. If you go through the meta, it actually had over 200 references. I mean, I haven't come across such a detailed and comprehensive meta in quite some time. So I felt that the meta was good enough, and it allowed me an opportunity to put forth my opinion based on the meta. It had both positive and negatives, and I think I treated the same thing that the meta was suggesting, that we really don't know the whole micro interactions, because let's be honest, most of the times the compounds were isolated and they were done in petri dishes or mice, right? The human experiments, we have never isolated the compounds. We either gave them whole foods and which had a lot of compounding variables, and then वो भी एनिमल नहीं, ह्यूमन स्टडीज में ये देखो 1991 की स्टडी के हिसाब से। Then you mentioned about the Ishizuki study, which I had never actually given my reference. It was not there in my reference, but I think you included it anyways, where you suggested that soy supplementation can cause goiter, right? And then of course we had multiple arguments on the study and the study findings. So this is basically the context, and I'll give the stage to you, and then you can clarify some of those things, and then we can go back and forth.
All right. So firstly, thank you for that detailed explanation about the entire situation. Now, I disagree with a lot of your points here. Now, firstly, of course, the first thing you mentioned is that I cut out a few clips from your video and I used it on my reel. Of course, your video was, I think, about 1 minute 20 seconds, somewhere around that time. And I couldn't put that entire thing on my reel. So I highlighted the main few points where you truly did say that anti-nutrients can be beneficial for you. Now, you claim that you are not making this up as per your preference. You are quoting a particular study. But the mere fact that you are quoting this study and proving the fact that this study said anti-nutrients are good for consumption just speaks about the fact that you truly believe that anti-nutrients can have some benefits in the human body. Now, coming to Ishizuki, yes, Ishizuki wasn't part of your meta review, and that's kind of unfortunate because I believe that you mentioned that this meta review is a very detailed review. And if it's a detailed review which had about 200 papers as per you mentioned, then Ishizuki truly should have been one, because everyone, most professionals in the industry know about this paper. I'm sure you have heard about this paper before as well. And the mere fact that this study was a review and it still didn't have one of the most crucial studies that have been conducted with regards to soy and thyroid function just speaks of the fact that reviews aren't the best form of evidence. Now, speaking a little bit more on this, what I would like to say is that a review of literature is not always true literature. So what I mean by this is a review is basically a particular person or an organization giving their stance and publishing studies with regards to that. In the near future, I may also publish a particular review on a particular topic. And if I have a stance that supports a particular topic, then I will definitely find out research papers and point to the fact that most evidence does line up with this. And this just largely speaks of the fact that even though reviews are published, it doesn't mean that they totally add a lot of value to literature studies. Again, I'm not saying that the review that you mentioned was completely useless. What I'm trying to say is that reviews are an opinion of a particular person or an organization, and they cannot be truly deciphered directly. Now, if we talk about your particular review that we just spoke about, that review didn't really support the benefits of anti-nutrients in utmost detail. If you truly go paragraph by paragraph, you will clearly see that everywhere it is mentioned that protease inhibitors, for example, have shown benefits and side effects in the past. Now, I've already given my argument for this. These benefits from uh, anti-nutrients in the past have been given as per pharmacological action or therapeutic benefits. So the dosage that is given as per these studies or reviews isn't really too much. It's pretty small. So coming to the main point again, we cannot, by the meaning of judging a particular review, decide the fact that okay, just because this review says that anti-nutrients may have some potential benefits, we cannot truly ignore the side effects that anti-nutrients may have. And of course, when we talk about a particular review, we also need to go through all the studies that have been conducted in that review already. So, for example, I did go through the review and I chose the topic of saponins or protease inhibitors, and I opened the relevant research papers that were cited for those particular topics. And on opening of those research papers, as you just mentioned that the side effects of anti-nutrients have been mostly spoken about in vitro experiments or animal experiments. But when I opened the research paper that was linked to protease inhibitors of your same review, the therapeutic benefits of protease inhibitors was also on animal studies and in vitro studies as well. So that truly contradicts to the same point that uh, if you mention the fact that animal studies and in vitro studies are not as useful, then they are actually contradicting your own point, because the benefits have also been seen in vitro experiments as well. Now, I'm not saying that in vitro or animal studies are completely useless. I truly believe that they are very useful because obviously due to safety and efficacy concerns, we cannot always directly use humans for testing any pharmacological action which may have potential side effects before we test it on animals and in vitro experiments. Now, coming to your main arguments, the argument about Ishizuki. Sorry, I took a lot of time with anti-nutrients, but quickly go through. I'll quickly go through Ishizuki. So, I believe you mentioned that Ishizuki. If I quickly open your screenshots, let me just share the screen.
I hope I'm taking just notes of so that I can do a rebuttal point by point. It's not.
Yeah. I'll have to find this quickly. Just a sec. All right. So, sharing my screen. So yeah. Firstly, this was your stance on Ishizuki, where I found numerous mistakes. In fact, in pretty much every line we can find mistakes here. So you mentioned that who's eating raw soybeans here? But if we truly open Ishizuki, do you want me to open it in front of you?
No, I'll open it. I'll cover these points. You can put forth your points, and then I'll.
Firstly, Ishizuki, you mentioned that who's eating raw soybeans here? I believe you try to correlate to the fact that no one in the country eats soybeans. Now, this is flawed in not just one but multiple ways. So, um, if anti-nutrients truly don't have any problem, then eating raw soybeans should also not have problems because cooking soy is just removing the anti-nutrients. So if anti-nutrients are safe for consumption or beneficial or they can have beneficial effects, then you don't really need to cook soybean. Now, apart from that, since we just spoke about the fact that you commented that no one is eating raw soybeans, if we open Ishizuki, you will see that no one is eating raw soybeans there as well. They were consuming pickled soybeans. All right. Pickled soybeans. I think you have your hand raised. Let me just finish this statement and I'll let you speak. All
Yeah,
right.
I'm just gonna say I concede to this point. I was wrong there. They were using soy soaked in vinegar, so I was wrong here. We can move forward.
All right, all right. So they were using soy that was soaked in vinegar and it was boiled as well. So again, first thing, if anti-nutrients aren't a problem, then raw soybean shouldn't also be a problem. But even if you are cooking soybean, there is already cooked soybean in Ishizuki. So I believe since you accepted the fact that you were wrong here, I would just like to add to the point that before you comment on any research paper, including Ishizuki or any literature, um, as professional, you should have gone through the entire paper before. But nevertheless, in fact, a couple of your followers did comment on my post as well that you just read abstracts and you don't read the whole research paper. And they were accusing me of the same while you have done the same thing in this particular field. So I believe that as professionals, we should have gone through the entire paper before commenting. But coming to the next point, you mentioned that serum thyroid levels remained unchanged. They didn't remain unchanged. They were on a decreasing path, but the results weren't totally significant. But if we see the graph that was provided, you'll notice that there was a decreasing trend in the levels of T3 and T4 levels. All right. Apart from that, you mentioned that there was a change in TSH levels, which wasn't clinically significant. And that is a statement that has been made in Ishizuki, but the mere fact that most people got diarrhea, I think about 7 people got diarrhea. Let me just check it quickly. So about 35% of the population that was in Ishizuki had diarrhea. About 25% people had abdominal distension. 20% cases had constipation. 10% people had fatigue and not being able to and feeling sleepy. And I'm not sure the number, but I think uh, goiter was found in a lot of studies. So goiter obviously is one of the
11,
most
11 candidates. Yeah, 11 candidates.
yeah. So 11 candidates had goiter.
Yeah.
Now goiter obviously pretty much everyone knows that if thyroid has to have one disease, not even like people who are not even related to medical field, they also know that goiter is a thyroid disorder. Now, what this study concluded was that people got goiter after 1 year of consumption of soy, and right after they left consuming soy, their goiter was reversed in just 3 months for most people. So even the mere fact that you're mentioning that TSH levels weren't clinically significant, there is a lot of clinical significance here, and that ranges from goiter, hypothyroid, and comes down to even diarrhea and constipation. Apart from that, the next statement that you've made is they could not obtain any significant correlation between TSH levels and iodide. And you also mentioned that only elderly group was experiencing these issues, which is also again false. The research clearly mentions that a lot of healthy individuals were taken for the study, and exaggerated results were found in elderly people. That does not mean that only young people were part of this study. And you also mentioned that the sample size was 37, which is incorrect. The sample size is actually 54. And you also mentioned that there are no control groups, but there are two control groups in this study. So, all in all, I think you made about 5 statements, and 4 of these were wrong in the study. So, do you have anything to say in response to this?
Sure. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Hirsch. I think a lot of valid points. Let me start right from the beginning. I think the first part was about ANF, and you said that my video was pretty long, so you had to cut out the portions. Um, look, I think you did cut out the portion, but I still feel that if people saw my video, they'll walk away with a different conclusion uh, compared to what they would if they watched your video. So I think it was still a misappropriation. The conclusion for my video was simply that we don't know about these micro interactions at this point. That was the conclusion. I didn't say that ANFs were beneficial and everybody should consume them.
You did.
Out,
Sorry to interrupt, but you did.
Yeah, I merely highlighted the research which has pointed out that ANFs have both beneficial as well as detrimental effects in the body, and I did so in a very responsible manner. I did not say that people should start consuming anti-nutrients. If I did, maybe you can play the video once again and highlight the portion where I did that.
No, of course, I agree to the fact that you also mentioned that there is not enough evidence as per these micro interactions, but this just fuels my point again. As I mentioned, that reviews aren't truly reliable, and in fact, there's a study on this, by the way, that reviews aren't truly reliable. But um, uh, the same reason as to why reviews aren't reliable could be the same reason as to why your video isn't reliable, because review is also someone's stance, and this was also your stance. So your stance clearly mentioned the fact that anti-nutrients can have potential benefits as well. Do you agree to this or not?
No, I think it is my, I do agree to this, but here's my contention. You mentioned that reviews are not reliable, and please allow me to speak. I think in that case, we can't truly trust any governing body, any medical body, because you said that reviews aren't helpful. But do you believe in AHA guidelines? Do you follow AHA guidelines? Do you follow Cochrane? So can you please, for the benefit of everybody, tell us what's the evidence pyramid that they follow?
So I agree to the fact that reviews are mentioned on top of that pyramid.
What's the level of evidence? If you can kindly put the entire evidence pyramid in front of everybody, I think that.
I'm not exactly sure as to how the evidence pyramid exists at the current moment, but I can look it up.
Correct?
Yeah, of course, you can look it up.
So AHA and other bodies, Cochrane is basically a guild of the top doctors, right? The medical scientists around the world. And this is how the evidence pyramid looks for them. So they look at high quality meta-analysis, systematic reviews, and 2 or more randomized controlled trials. This comes under level A evidence. Okay. Then poorly conducted randomized controlled trial, poorly conducted reviews, they usually come under level B evidence. And case studies, non-randomized controlled trials, and you have your cohort studies, they come under level C. So this is the current evidence pyramid that they follow. To say that reviews are not useful, and reviews also, again, are not personal opinion. An opinion article is different, a review is different. Reviews follow PRIMA guidelines. I'm sure you're aware of PRIMA guidelines. So when a review follows a PRIMA guideline and it is published in a peer-reviewed journal, and I think it's widely accepted, and if the medical bodies are putting forth their recommendations based on these reviews, I think it's a little tricky to say that reviews are opinion papers, because if you see most of the bodies, when they put forth their opinions, you'd hardly see their opinions basis 1 or 2 randomized controlled trials. They actually look at reviews. So this is my first point. Again, if you have any contention to the evidence pyramid, we can discuss on it further. Or again, I have a lot of points because you made a lot of points in your statements, and so I have to refute them.
Can we go one by one? This is a humble request from my side, but I end up forgetting these points. So if we can go one by one, that would be great. If you would allow. So I never said that reviews are completely useless. I said that reviews need to be evaluated with proper expertise. Because one, if to say I wanted to publish a particular review, I could easily bias research papers, and I could find 200 research papers that are biasing my particular side of evidence and my particular stance and nuance. But what I'm trying to say here is that I'm not saying that reviews are useless. What I'm trying to say is that reviews should be evaluated with caution. And I'm not saying that the review you shared is also completely useless. again, the second point that comes to this particular review that you've shared is that one, reviews can have a tone that is biasing towards a particular fact, which it probably did in this one. And apart from that, the other studies that were mentioned in the review have to be truly evaluated and gone through. First, I'd like to ask you one yes or no question. Did you go through all the studies that were present in that review? No,
No.
of course not. So 200 studies, you didn't go through them, but the review also kept on mentioning the fact that anti-nutrients have shown side effects. They did cite side effects for that as well.
Yeah.
And by the end of the paragraph, they concluded with the fact that the evidence is not pretty clear. All right. So, do you agree to the fact that the review, even though it was titled in favor of anti-nutrients, it had a lot of gray area in between?
I think the review was pretty fairly balanced and it wasn't biased. I
The
think that
overview of the
was
review. If we talk about the title and the tone of the review, it is truly a review that favors points towards anti-nutrients, and it says that anti-nutrients can have potential benefits. Of course it does, isn't it? So if we were to evaluate the review line by line, which I don't think a lot of common audience or individuals would do, they would truly think that this review supports the fact that anti-nutrients are beneficial. But when we go in depth of the review and the studies that have been cited in that particular review, it just says the fact that anti-nutrients have shown side effects, and they can also show potential benefits in therapeutic dosages and not in daily consumption dosages, by the way. I don't think there's many randomized controlled trials that evaluates, for instance, a food like soy on thyroid function, except Ishizuki. This, I think that's probably the only randomized controlled trials of soy and thyroid function. So if you were to evaluate, concluding to the point, okay, sorry, I'm deviating, but concluding to the point, what I'm trying to say is that reviews aren't totally useless, but when we are reviewing these reviews, we have to proceed with caution and we have to evaluate properly. That's what I'm trying to say.
right. So look, I think a fair point. Fair points to you. Thank you for agreeing that reviews aren't totally useless. They aren't opinion papers, but they are, high level evidence. Now we can obviously agree or disagree between if it's level A or level B, but I think a reference, a review paper like this, which is published in a good peer-reviewed journal with a good impact factor, having over 200 researchers cited by multiple people, and one which I personally feel isn't biased. It was giving a fair, balanced picture. And it is true that we really don't know much about the micro interactions about ANFs in the body because a lot of people only understand trypsin inhibitors like, okay, so these are some enzymes which kind of inhibit the enzyme trypsin. They have these capabilities where they bind to these sites, which prevents XYZ mechanism. Most of these mechanistic studies are limited in design, and we don't know if these enzymes are only binding with these specific enzymes which we are discussing and not doing something else. So for example, in some of the studies, if you go through the review, you find out that these enzymes also had some other mechanistic implications on cell proliferation and how like especially in cellular autopsis and a lot of cancer development areas. So I'm saying that there's a lot more which we don't know. I think the paper kind of ended up concluding, which I also did in my video, is that we really don't know anything about these ANFs at this point. Now, for somebody to say that X food or Y food or Z food, which has been consumed for over, I think, 5,000 odd years, so it's been consumption is 5,000 years, one needs to have a really good quality evidence without a shadow of doubt that, hey, this food is bad for you. Now, you yourself said that Ishizuki was a study done on soy, but Ishizuki, you are saying it's the only randomized control trial, which again, it's not right. There were further randomized control trials which were done with better quality control, which also found no significance of soy.
Can you run them through me?
Yes. Allow me to share my screen.
Oh, and I'm not referring to soy, I'm referring to soy and thyroid.
Yeah. Yeah. Allow me to share my screen. Yeah, let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So, not this one. Right. So we have this Photon meta-analysis, and I think it has highlighted several studies. Um, and I think if you go through, so this is the forest plot from all of these studies, and you can see that most of the studies, again, there were some studies which showed good p-values, but look at the z-values. I mean, look at the z-value in this one, right? And then they filtered these studies for potential biases, and I think they still ended up including something like 18, 20 studies. And then they also finally concluded that it had no significant effects on either of these values. I can send this document to you if
No,
you
no,
want.
I have the document. Don't worry.
Okay, perfect. So you can go through OTUN and find out there were several other studies which are done on the subject. Now, coming back to, so let's go point by point if that's fine by you. Second,
I have a response to Otun, I have a response to the Otun study, by the way.
okay, because then we'll kind of go
Okay,
into.
I'll let you go. I'll let you go first this time. So after that, I'll respond to it.
So in the very first discussion, you also mentioned that Ishizuki wasn't uh, included in the ANF review, right? And that's because the review wasn't really including foods; it was including ANF. And I think the study Ishizuki was not really on goitrogens or isoflavones present in soy. It didn't even have those mentions, right? It was just a study done on soy and thyroid association. So maybe that could be one reason why they excluded the study. Again, that's just a hunch. Um, then, of course, you mentioned about the ANFs and therapeutic dosages. Now, since we don't have any RDA, do we have any RDA for ANFs? I don't think so. Do we have any ADIs? We don't have any ADIs. We don't have any threshold limit values, right? So unless until we have some RDA, unless until we have some ADI, unless until we have some TLV values, we can't really say if one can take anti-nutrients or cannot take anti-nutrients. Is my understanding correct, doctor?
I disagree.
Okay, please elaborate.
Well, let's talk about an analogy, and I think I bring this up too often, and people might think I'm obsessed with creatine, but even creatine doesn't have RDA, but a lot of people still consume it.
But it does have a ADI.
I'm not sure about that, but if we're talking about governing bodies, uh,
No.
you
So look, ADI is important, because
all right. Maybe creatine has an ADI. So
it has ADI.
what I'm trying to say is that just because a particular body has not evaluated an RDA or an ADA for a particular food item, that does not mean that it's useful for you. And as professionals here, as medical and fitness and healthcare professionals, our job is to analyze what foods are better than some foods. And we know that anti-nutrients have potential side effects. So mentioning the fact that anti-nutrients can be benefit for you may misregard the public, may misinform the public in a manner that they may start believing that, okay, isoflavones have shown anti-carcinogenic benefits, so let me just consume isolated anti-flavones, right? And again, speaking about your Oton review, it did not add Ishizuki to its list again, and it did
Come
not.
to that. I'll come to that. Why? I have a solid response to that. I'll come to that later on. But please continue.
Okay, so one is Ishizuki, second is R. Hampel 2008. These are two randomized controlled trials that mention the fact that consuming consuming soy or anti-nutrients can affect your thyroid function. These are two studies that both mention the fact that anti-nutrients like phytoestrogens and isoflavones can affect thyroid function. And I can open it for you if you want to see. But
There are 2 out of 26 studies included in OTUN. So yeah, please continue.
sorry. Oh, and by the way, um, since you're very confident about Otun, I think you are. You also mentioned that EFSA has approved soy, right?
No, I think it cleared its stance on how soy does not have any effect on TSH levels in postmenopausal and premenopausal women, which was the
Exactly. So
contention. Some of the
share my screen quickly again.
sure.
And where's the image? So I think
By the way, I also have to give a response to the comments which are mentioned there.
yeah, we can open that one by one. So if I can finish this first. So you mentioned that EFSA has dismissed the evidence on soy's effect on thyroid and have suggested soy to be a safe protein source. And can I please include EFSA, AHA, and FDA? So firstly, the study by EFSA isn't a study on men. And I'll open that really quick.
Yeah.
So yeah. So okay. So if we see the study by EFSA, we can clearly see that this is a study for peri and post-menopausal women taking food supplements containing isolated isoflavones.
Yeah.
So they are consuming isolated isoflavones and not exactly food rich in anti-nutrients like soy. And these are peri and post-menopausal women. In your comment, you mentioned the fact that EFSA has dismissed the evidence on soy's effects on thyroid and have suggested soy to be a safe protein source. EFSA has suggested soy to be a safe protein source for menopausal women and not the entire population. So I hope you realize again a completely incorrect comment or a misguiding comment. Maybe it was something that you missed typing, but you can clearly see here that EFSA didn't talk about soy to be a safe protein source. It spoke about it being safe for peri and postmenopausal women. Apart from that, you already mentioned AHA guidelines and the pyramid of evidence by AHA and FDA stance on soy. Um, so I also have two very contradicting evidence for this as well. So let me just share that again. So I believe you were referring to the study by AHA in 2006, right?
I don't remember that, but yeah, something like that.
So
We have more evidence. No? We have more evidence now.
I think we were referring to this one.
Yeah, I think. I
Yeah.
don't
So even in this study, the AHA Nutrition Committee concluded that use of soy food was consistent, but no recommendation was made to include soy protein in the diet. So, even AHA concluded that soy foods are consistent with dietary guidelines,
they
but
did not
they don't include soy protein.
make recommendations.
Sorry,
They
I
have
didn't.
they don't make food recommendations. AHA does not make food recommendations. They make generic recommendation, like they recommend legumes as good source of protein, and
Of course,
soy.
but
Yeah,
But here, if
they
you
don't
clearly
make specific food recommendations.
Okay, of course, but since they have made a study on soy, which is a food, and they didn't recommend it, then it could be due to a particular reason, right? And so let's ignore that because there's something that's even better now. So if we go through this study in detail, you'll find that not a lot of evidence was seen in people with normal cholesterol levels, and with it was seen only with people having elevated cholesterol levels, and that could not be due to anti-nutrients, it could be due to fiber levels. Now, this is the study by AHA in 2006, I believe, or 2000. Okay. So, but if we see this study in the AHA journal in 2019, this study again disagrees with the amount of evidence that consumption of soy has. So you can quickly go through this
And
study
if
as well.
we
Were to speak about
Yeah,
FDA's recommendation.
there's a study published in the AHA. Has it come in the news room? Is it an official AHA recommendation, or is just a study published on the AHA? Because the,
It's a study published on the AHA journal.
that's not AHA recommendation. That's not
I
AHA's.
didn't claim it. I clearly said that it's a study in AHA journal.
Yeah. So we have to. So for everybody who's watching, a lot of studies get published under the umbrella of AHA, but that does not reflect AHA stance. In fact, recently
Of course,
a
and
very study came
France is
which said
all
that protein can cause atherosclerosis, but that was not official AHA stance. So we have to take this information that the study was published in AHA. It does not reflect AHA stance.
of course, of course. So again, the AHA's original stance also was inconclusive of this, And the study published in AHA was also mentioning the fact that there's not enough evidence that talks about consumption of soy. And since you're saying that an article published in AHA is not as valuable as an AHA study, as an AHA recommendation, I would
No,
like to show
AHA
this
makes
FDA statement.
AHA makes a
Yeah.
stance.
So
Go
I
ahead.
would like to show this FDA statement to you.
Yeah. This is
Susan,
a statement from 2017.
I believe yes.
Yes. So this statement was submitted in
Um, can,
2017.
can
This
I
was
inform the audience first about my study? So Susan Main, a PhD, who's the director of FDA Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, herself said that it revokes the health claim that soy protein reduces the risk of heart disease. So earlier, a lot of people started claiming that soy protein reduces the risk of heart disease, and this claim was supposed to be revoked, or at least a proposal was given for the same. Now, of course, someone who is the director of FDA has a PhD, is probably someone pretty educated. And before deciding the fact that soy has to be removed from FDA's recommendation, they would definitely have had food for thought, right? Or maybe soy for thought. So, talking about
no,
FDA,
let's stick with this. Then what happened? What happened to the what
sticking to
happened?
I'm
FDA
sticking
do?
to that only. I'm
What
sticking.
happened? Did they revoke the health claim?
Let me just finish my statement. Let me just finish my statement real quick. So, again, if we look at an overview from all of this, what we come to realize that there's not enough evidence everywhere. There's not enough evidence for consumption of soy, benefits of soy,
You
or
digress. I know you're trying to finish your statement, but you have to complete the first picture. Okay. So Harsh mentioned that in 2017, Susan Main posted a
but
statement.
I'm
No, no, come on. This is misguiding. You're misguiding people.
no
This
more sense.
the
No more
sense
sense
it
in
was
this.
never revoked.
It
FDA revoked it and then it reinstated it in 2021. As of
of
today,
course
FDA has a clear stance that soy can
I,
make those health claims. So you have to
I'm,
clarify. Come on, give proper information.
I'm about to clarify. I'm about
Okay.
to clarify. So even if the stance by FDA was cleared in 2021, the mere fact that the director of FDA had to submit a proposal for
I
revoking.
think that two people in the in a same organization cannot have conflict of opinion, and just because one
No,
person's
that I'm
opinion,
not.
your
Of course,
opinion, yours, that
I'm not saying.
person has
Now,
a
if we
much
talk
more credit.
about an authority or a credibility, now you're interrupting a bit too much, so I'll have to call you out for that. So,
Please continue.
if we talk about authority, credibility, and probably the level of education as well, we're probably at a place that is much lower than an FDA director, right? She's a PhD and she is the director of the Food Dietary Association of America. So
We're digressing.
definitely well educated. And
We are
the
digressing from the point. We are digressing from the point. Look, now we are
again,
going from the
you're
realm
inter-
of data
let me come
to
to the
what
question. Let
we
me
are going from the realm of data to what about we haven't even come to the
let
issues
me
of tree.
let me
So
finish. I'm sorry to call you out for this again and again, but I haven't interrupted you much during this debate, and
and
you're not letting me finish this one statement. So, uh, the mere fact that a professional, a PhD professional, is had to give out a proposal largely speaks about the lack of evidence for soy. And again, this was for soy protein. It wasn't for soy. And why are we isolating soy protein? Because shouldn't anti-nutrients not be a problem if there's a lot of evidence that supports anti-nutrients? And with regards to the FDA study that you're mentioning, by the way, um, I like to open this real quick. That one sec. So in this study, if we just clearly go through it, the FDA study that earlier did claim the benefits of consumption soy, or they did recommend soy. It I can't clearly find it, but if I go through it, I'll definitely come back with that. It analyzed not studies with soy, it analyzed studies with soy protein. So it's not talking about, they're talking about soy protein isolates. Very few studies are talking about actual soy protein, actual soy with anti-nutrients. So what's the point of making a soy protein isolate if anti-nutrients aren't a problem? Now, again, I'm not saying that the FDA or the AHA is very trustworthy, because in fact, if you're aware of this study, that earlier these governing bodies had mentioned that trans fat is safe for consumption. So I totally believe that these governing bodies, as all governing bodies, can be corrupt at times as well. And the fact that soy is one of the most profit-making industry in the US, it's highly possible that there could be a little bit of corruption going on in these topics. So again, I'm not claiming that these governing bodies are corrupt. I'm just suggesting to the fact that it can be possible. So I'm not saying that FDA is the best or AHA is the best or any research is the best, but the very fact that we are medical and fitness and healthcare professionals just speaks for the fact that whatever we are promoting to the audience is something that guarantees the fact that you will not face any side effects from it. And the case for soy or anti-nutrients in general is very weak in this stance, because um, there's a lot of contradicting evidence. And you've been avoiding Ishizuki, by the way, a lot. We're not
Well, looking
discussing.
forward to discuss it. Please allow me that time. Allow me that time.
Yeah, of course. So let's speak about Ishizuki then.
Am I allowed the time now?
Yeah, definitely. If
Okay.
you're talking about Ishizuki, then you can take whatever time you want.
Perfect. I'm only going to discuss Ishizuki from now onwards. But before that, look, you made a lot of very generic statements. I don't think we should be making those statements because, sure, show industry is profitable, but show is a medical profession. And one can say, hey, doctors make a lot of money. So that implies that doctors are corrupt. You get my point? That's not how we basically do things, right?
I won't disagree to that as well. There can be a lot of doctors that are corrupt. So if I were to recommend a doctor for you,
Does
I would
that,
recommend.
does that
I
imply
would.
medical industry is corrupt
No,
and we have no need for
obviously not. Obviously not. That's what I'm trying to say. Some doctors can
I
be
think
corrupt
that's
at
my point, that
situations.
you make blanket statements about some industry being profitable and then it's wrong, And then
Uh,
the large
I'm
bodies,
just laying it out there for the audience. I'm not
you're
telling you
confusing the
that
audience.
this
Confusing
this
the
is
audience.
how.
See, we have to believe in something, we have to believe in authorities.
Of course,
Without
uh,
authorities, the whole world will go haywire. So we have to
it
believe in authorities. They can
it
make
it
mistakes and they can
it
correct mistakes.
it does seem that you are concluding for the audience instead of the audience concluding it. So
No,
I'm not
I'm
confusing
just telling
anyone.
them,
I'm saying it out
no,
there. I'm
just
saying
telling
it
them
out
that look, we have
because,
to believe in
see,
authority.
the thing is, I cannot make claims that have not been completely proven. All right. And if
Um,
you were to recommend a doctor, would you
on that,
recommend someone who
Dr.
could
Bhatt,
be completely
you're
corrupt?
contradicting yourself right now. You are saying you can't make claims which are not completely proven, and here you are making claims that soy is bad for you.
I've never
Let
made
me
a choice
Ishizuki
back.
study. Allow me
I've
time, please.
one
Allow
second.
me time, and I'll open the Ishizuki study. But before
You
that,
please,
let
Suzuki,
me
you
open
might
the
be a
comments.
few things, by the way. I have never claimed that soy is beneficial, is bad for consumption. I have just claimed that there are much better foods than soy for consumption.
Okay, and some of the videos you actually did claim soy is bad, but maybe it was maybe less.
The videos. If you find soy and bad together in any one of the videos, I'll be more than happy to leave this debate right.
I think this video itself says soy is a scam, some soybean scam, protein scam, something like that, right? So a negative connotation. Anyways, let's move on to the Ishizuki study because I don't think we have enough time. So look at this. I've already conceded to you on the fact that I wrongly pointed out because at the point I was just looking at the abstract.
4 out of 5 times.
Yeah, so I'm coming to all of those points. So one of the points was that when you presented the abstract in this thing, and again, it's a paper in Japanese, right? So I didn't have the translation handy with me, so I relied on the abstract. So from the abstract itself, what I read was that they had elevated TSH levels, which were significant, but non-clinically significant, and it was in the elderly group, right? And at the time, the study did not mention if it was a controlled study. By the way, it was not 100% controlled study. There was controls for some things, but the control was not there. Now,
There were two control groups, and the abstract did mention that it wasn't only elderly people. So even if you read the abstract, you read that also wrong.
wait. I did not go through the study. I had just referred to the screenshot. Like I said, it was a study done in, I think the study is in a different language, so I had to do the translation.
The abstract
Now,
is in English. The study
yeah,
is in Japanese.
Okay. The second point that I did was that there was no significant difference between T3 and T4 levels, which you have allegedly said here that there was a significant decrease in serum T3 and T4 levels, which I will actually. Okay, so let me just open the study and let me know once you can see the study, and I'll point to the
This
problem.
I mentioned that there's a significant difference, but if you open the table, you will find that there's declining.
So again, here's the table. Let me know if you can see the table.
Yeah, I can see the table.
All right. So now if you understand T3 and T4, they have intraday variance, which could be up to 10%. 9.69 after 1 month. This is typically in the range of less than 10%, around 6%, I guess. Same happens here, same happens here, same happens here. And the group where they actually detected the highest amount of TSS elevation, look, there's no difference at all. Okay, so T3 and T4, there was no variance from anything which could be anything more than an intraday fluctuation. Do you agree to my findings or do you disagree here? And then I can move on to TSH, which is one of the biggest problems with the study, because if you come here and look at the scatter plot here, what do you see in this study? Do you see some of the problems with the study? So I'll just tell you that this is a scatter plot. So everybody who's looking here, this is a scatter plot. So the study did not provide raw data. If there was a raw data, I could have quickly run ANOVA and found out some of the big problems with the study, but we didn't have raw data, right? So we have scatter plots. Now, just from looking at the scatter plot, a smart guy will tell you that most of the values are under the bell curve, are these values. Do you see any problem with this, doctor?
Sorry, can you come back? Come again?
Can you see some problems with the scatter plot? Can you see some problems with the scatter plot here?
I'd like you to elaborate on this.
Okay, perfect. So look at this. Whenever we have raw data, when we do any sort of studies and we run any kind of statistical method on it, like in this case, they use Fisher's and t-test, right? So they calculated the mean difference between groups. Now, a mean is basically average of all numbers divided by the number of numbers, right? But if you do not use the mean values correctly, let's say there are outliers, they can skew the mean. So as you can see that there are some subjects which are complete outliers. Typically here, if you look at the T3 values, TSH values here, they are roughly in the safe range of, I think if this is 5, this is 0.5. Typically the values range from 0.1 to I think 4 micro units per ml. Look at the numbers. There's no difference. Practically, there's no difference in TSH values, and the whole result is getting skewed because of this one data point, right? This is an outlier. So in statistics, what we do is typically when we do a mean distribution curve, right? The curve should be a perfect bell curve. And if you have these outliers with a z value greater than plus minus 3, we remove them. If you remove these outliers, you'll have this. If you consider the values under the bell curve, you would see that there's no significant difference in TSH numbers. Now,
can I quickly ask you two things?
Sure.
One, could you show me the table?
Yeah. Remember that the table will not show you the raw data, it is showing the mean data for the entire group.
Of course, you mentioned that in the third group, there's barely any difference, and in the second group, there is very small difference, but there is difference of 6% something you mentioned.
No, understand once again. This is T4, this is T3.
What you said. I'm just confirming what you said. You said in the first.
We have already established that T4 and T3 did not change. This is intraday variance, which is completely normal. T4 and T3 did not change significantly. You can look at it. This is completely normal for thyroid variation intraday.
Oh, by the study mentions that it was in a declining trend.
Right, when I said there's no difference in T4 and T3 levels, you said it decreased. It did not decrease.
There's a declining trend. It did decrease.
That's not no. Intraday fluctuations in thyroid is roughly around 10%. 10% fluctuation in thyroid levels throughout the day is not a declining trend.
I'm talking about the yearly. I'm talking about the yearly decline.
No, it's not yearly. It's 1 month. It's not a decline, doctor. You can go and check with anybody. This is not a declining trend. This is an intraday.
It clearly mentions that. I can open the study right now. Do you want me to open the study?
Yeah, you can open the study at your end. This is not a declining trend. This is perfectly in range. T4, T3 here is
just open it. open it for you. And you also mentioned that the third group had no difference.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you, what are the contents of people in the third group?
Sorry, what?
What are the what is the what are the type of people that we are having in group 2 and 3?
I think elderly people or some folks, maybe there's a mix of. You can go and refer to the group
People,
details. The point is, we are looking at the data.
I'm just asking you a question, man. Come on, don't attack me. But
No, I'm not attacking you. Let me open the conclusion of the study. So I'll tell you the. Okay. So group 3, group 2, group 3 had 10 older individual, 1 man, 9 women, aged 46 to 76 with an average age of 60.
Group 3, which showed minimal difference, had 1 man, 9 women. Now we come to the same point again. All your evidence points to the fact that soys or anti-nutrients are good for women and not for men.
No. Again, you're not getting my point. The point is, you're thinking that T4 showed a declining trend.
You just let me. Okay, I'll speak two sentences. You speak two sentences. So we'll stay in check. So, firstly, in group 3, you mentioned that there is no change, but if we see
of seaweed is completely disregarded because they were already consuming seaweed before. So, watch for a minute, ignore the data and say the study is right. 31 years old study, 35 years old study. Why have there not been subsequent studies proving the same? Where has there been a controlled trial or a randomized controlled trial? What I'm saying, why are there not more studies? Why are there not studies? Developing goiter in people, why are there not other studies which have subsequently observed the same thing that you here are looking at from a study which is flawed with biases? I mean, if I could do a study, I would definitely do it, but I can't because I don't have it. The problem with this study is, this study was done at a time where there were no techniques like ANOVA. People used to run statistical models by themselves. How can you trust these researchers okay, look at this. How can you trust these researchers if they could not even plot the right kind of data? I just showed you the problem with the data. Because they are clinical professionals and they can clearly use medical equipment. If they cannot plot data, then it's fine as long as they're medical professionals and they found out that people got
That is the dumbest thing I've ever in my life.
I'm sure you've heard a lot of dumb lines before. You're basing the entire conclusion on data. If you don't know how to put the data in place, basically there's no excuse for that. It's a bad study. Okay, it's a bad study. So and check with someone. So alright. So you're going to ignore the seaweed fact? Or do you have something to say for that?
I put you at least 5 or 6 different problems with the study, and you are going on about the same thing. I'm saying this was non-randomized controlled trial. It was a poor sample size. There was no elevation in
57 is not a poor sample size.
Okay, let's say the sample size was decent enough. Okay, T3, T4, TSH, no changes.
TSH changes were there.
Many confounding variables. The data was reported on a questionnaire from people who said, yes, we did consume 30 grams of soy. Okay, there were many outliers which maybe they categorically introduced to screen the mean. There were outliers or not? Look at the data. There were outliers or not? Why did they introduce the outliers? Why did they make the outliers come to the final
this thing? Instead of mean, shouldn't have taken median, which is a standard practice in statistical analysis? You tell me. If your mean is getting screwed by multiple outliers with a higher z-value, what is recommended? You tell me. Alright, I'll give you that point, man. I don't understand these statistical terms, and I'm not afraid to accept to this fact. Alright? No, perfectly fine. Look, I don't expect you to understand statistics, but do you agree that statistics basically lay the foundation of any conclusion that somebody derives from a study? If the scientists are putting, imagine,
you are basically evaluating effect of a food on somebody's blood pressure levels, and you end up plotting wrong blood pressure levels. Somebody will come to a wrong conclusion. Hey, this food may be, wrongly elevated somebody's blood glucose levels. The whole study is messed up. You can't rely on that study if the data is not correct. Do you agree to this fact or not?
No, because the main fact.
Making a very big claim here. Okay. I'm making a very big claim. Hear my. I'm saying if the study does not have correct data, the entirety of that study can be rejected.
So we'll.
The very big claim. You can oppose this claim. You can go check with someone. But I'm making this very big claim. If there is problem with the data in a study, anything that the study says cannot be trusted.
That's your stance or your nuance. Now, I'll address the 5 mistakes that you said the debate has. So, the first. Moving from that to that now. No, that is. Come on, man. This is one of your 5 claims that makes the study useless, right? You mentioned 5 points, so I'll address all of these one by one. I'll address all of these one by one. I am not interrupting. I am not interrupting you at all. I am not interrupting you at all, and we are not the judge of this debate. Now, the audience is the judge of this debate, and the audience will judge on their own. Right? We are not. Okay. I am not going to judge you.
I think you can do the conclusion. I have no further points to make.
Of course, perfect. So that's what I was going to suggest. You've given your 5 points. Now I'll give my 5 points, and you won't interrupt me. Hopefully. So
no, I'm going on mute.
Oh, perfect. So again, now I'll address your statistics point as well, but I don't want you to get angry again before I finish all my points. Now, first thing you said is that there was no increase of TSH levels, and I'd like to show that there was an increase in TSH levels. TSH, sorry, not this one. I think it's not on this page. So yeah, TSH increased significantly. This was the first claim that you made, that TSH and T3, T4 levels didn't increase. This is the first claim. TSH levels increased significantly. There was a decreasing trend in the thyroid values. There's that as well. So that was my response to your first claim, that these levels are wrong. Second, you said that I think you mentioned somewhere along the lines that the sample size is incorrect, is not enough, it's not decent. So the sample size was 57, which is a pretty decent thing, and I think you already accepted that. So there's that one. There's 54, sorry. There's 54 cases that were selected. You said it wasn't regulated properly. So addressing that, I will show this. Searches were conducted in the morning before soybean administration, on the last day of soybean administration, and after 3 months of soybean and discontinuation. And you said that they were just based on questionnaires, but it's clearly written that searches were conducted in the morning before administration, on the last day of administration, and after 3 months of soybean administration and discontinuation. Alright, so this is your third claim, and this is my response to your third claim. And again, now when we talk about statistics, you can tell me that this graph is incorrect. If I could read this graph, I would definitely give you a response to that. But since you're saying, I'll take your word and I'll assume that this graph is incorrect only because of this 1, 2, 3, 4 outliners that you mentioned. Alright, which may make the serum TSH increase or decrease incorrect, right? Which may change the fact that there is no increase or decrease in serum TSH levels. Alright, you're just saying that this graph is wrong, and the other graphs you have, there's only one other graph. So yeah, about that, since you're mentioning TSH is incorrect, I agree. Maybe it could be possible that the TSH levels are incorrect, but again, if we talk about the entire study, the conclusion is that 11 people got goiter, and out of, I think you mentioned 34 or 37, out of these people, 11 people got goiter, which is a pretty high number. And I, as a medical professional, I don't care what these numbers say or what these numbers say. I only care about the fact that 11 people out of about 37, which is about 1/3 of the population, got goiter. Alright, and to debunk your seaweed claim, since you opened an entire study about seaweed, I've already responded to that before, and I would just like to say that seaweed it was already a part of their diet, and right after they started consuming soy, they saw the problems, and right after they stopped consuming soy, they were still consuming seaweeds. And the debate isn't about it's not on soy, by the way. The debate is on anti-nutrients, and if something in seaweed, as per your statement, is causing problems with absorption or thyroid levels or thyroid disorders, then that particular item in seaweed is also an anti-nutrient. So that just comes to the fact that there is a lot of evidence that suggests that thyroid anti-nutrients can have disrupting effects. And we have a lot of evidence on infants. We have a lot of studies here and there that talk about the issues with anti-nutrients. And I'm sure you agree to the fact that there are a couple of studies that do point to this fact. Now, there are studies that talk about therapeutic benefits of anti-nutrients as well. But concluding overall, as a professional, I would only suggest to a particular person to
which lacks those micronutrients or those anti-nutrients which may have which may have potential negative or side effects to that particular person's digestion or etc. So again, concluding in bold terms, what I would like to say is it's always better to avoid those food items that lack a potential of side effects and consume those food items that have proper research that talk about the benefits of that particular food item. So yeah, that's me concluding. This is okay. If you have something to add, you can add, or you can present any argument that you have.
Guys, I'll be recording some long format videos in the coming days on how to read studies, how to understand basic level statistics. I would highly recommend Harsh watch those videos. With that, I think you guys have been a great audience. Harsh, it was a very civil discussion, and I'm sure this whole thing will be posted on your live feed. And that's amazing. By the way, I'm very sleepy, so hats off you guys. Thank you so much. Great work you're doing, Harsh. Don't mind some of the things I say, okay? I use one of you. Please continue making your funny videos. Good night.